Opening credits. Ghost. A haunting paranormal romance short story. By Summer Cooper. Auto-narrated, using Google technology. Chapter 1. Tana Jackson pulled into a parking spot at the bottom of the latest mountain she was determined to hike, and smiled happily. 2 weeks of camping, hiking, and total peace from the world outside awaited her. World War III could start, and she'd never know because she was going to be hiking up a mountain, through thick woods, and cooling her feet in cold mountain streams. Just the kind of holiday she'd been longing for. Tana pulled her gear out of the back, checked in with the office, and pulled out her map, refreshing the trail in her mind. Finding the trailhead, she started her way up. Early morning sunlight barely penetrated the canopy of the trees, and Tana knew she had hours to go before she made her first campsite. The canopy overhead provided shade and kept it cool, but Tana was sweating an hour into her hike, and pulled the electric blue fleece she had on over her head and tied it around her waist. Wiping her forehead, Tana looked around the rocky terrain, wondering how much weight she'd shift on this holiday. She wasn't vastly overweight, but she never denied herself whatever she wanted to eat so that she could look like a supermodel. Brushing at the strands of long red hair that had escaped their clip, she reminded herself that life was meant to be lived and enjoyed. Denying yourself food so that you could go to parties where you hated everyone else didn't appeal to her. In any case, she reminded herself, exercise usually shifted most of it, and she was a healthy 28-year-old woman. She wandered off the trail for a moment to snap some pictures of a stream that had caught her eye, and then carried on, wanting to set up camp by lunchtime. Halfway up the mountain, Tana stopped and made her first campsite, using an area provided by the Forestry Service that oversaw the parkland. The wind was up a bit, so she used a barbecue pit provided by the service to cook her lunch rather than making a campfire herself. The sky was a little more open where some of the trees had been cleared out for the campsite, and Tana knew the night wouldn't be too cold, especially with a sleeping bag to warm up in. She set up her one-person tent, slid the sleeping bag inside of it, and pulled out a book, deciding a little rest was called for after that hike up the mountain. Tana spent the rest of the day exploring the area, taking photographs, resting her feet in the spring that ran down the mountain, and generally just enjoying where she was. She prepared another dehydrated meal that evening, changed into more comfortable sleep attire, snuggled down into her sleeping bag, and quickly fell asleep, looking up at the stars through the trees, totally at peace with the world and quietly happy. The next morning she set off early, wanting to reach the peak of the mountain and see the views from the top before the sun went down. This part of the hike took considerably longer, as the altitude increased and the terrain became rockier. She consulted the map periodically, because she'd lost the trail markers somewhere along the way, but she was certain she'd stayed on the right path. Tana was near the top when she started to smell smoke. The scent confused her at first, but then she realized there must be some campers up top. As long as they didn't impinge on her quiet time, she didn't mind other people around. Sometimes campers liked to party until the morning hours, and that usually made Tana a very unhappy camper. She giggled at her bad joke, and carried on trudging up the mountain. She started to hear voices, children's laughter, the yips of dogs chasing each other, and what sounded like wood being chopped. Oh good grief, there was a whole village at the top by the sounds of it. Her mood souring and her hopes for a peaceful evening quickly disappearing, Tana climbed the last little bit, and stood behind a tree, expecting to see a whole commune of tents and campfires. What she saw made her jaw drop. The top of the mountain was mainly clear of trees, with some kind of wigwam structures dotted all along it. People walked in between the structures, clad in buckskin clothing, working, performing a variety of jobs from curing more of the leather used to make their clothing and footwear, to chopping wood and preparing food around a large fire. An elderly man with long gray hair sat in front of one of the cooking fires caught her attention, and she watched him for a moment as he turned meat on large stones set over the fire. Well, that was one way to get the job done, Tana thought. As her gaze drifted over the village, Tana became aware that she needed to relieve her bladder, and glanced at the old man once more. Such a brilliant way to cook food, she said to herself as she turned around. Tana was startled to find the old man standing in front of her, and tried to backpedal, but her left foot caught between two rocks and she fell, rolling 20 foot down the slope of the mountain before landing against a tree. She cried out in agony just before she passed out, the side of her head colliding with a rock. The old man watched as Tana rolled, horrified that he'd startled her so badly. Looking back up the slope, he wondered how he was going to get such a large woman up to the village to tend to her injuries. He was going to have to go for help. She's so big, none of the women in our village or other villages are as tall as her, as round. She must be from another village far, far away. Or she's come from the other side of the veil. I don't know, Kajika, I've just never seen a woman so big. Tana scrunched up her face and tried to open her eyes, but they were being held down by stones, it felt like. Her entire body was screaming at her in pain, her right collarbone, shoulder and left ankle holding a competition to see which could get her attention first. Finally managing to drag her eyelids open, she looked at the two men staring down at her, and decided she'd rather be dead than listen to that old man and what had to be the
censored
man alive discussing how large she was. Scrunching up her face, she tried to roll over but stopped immediately as her ankle finally won the screaming competition. She bit back a scream and a swear word, punching the soft blankets that cushioned the place she was resting instead. Finally, the pain ebbed to low-grade torture and she opened her eyes again. Yep, the
censored
God was still there. The man was beautiful with dark black hair, crystal blue eyes, and a mouth that women would pay for. His body looked like it had been sculpted from marble, and she could see quite a bit of it, as it was only covered in a loincloth of some sort at the moment. Who wears loincloths in this day and age, she thought. This must be some really weird cult. Just wait until I get back down the mountain, and tell them what kind of nutjobs have taken over up here. Could one of you stop gawking at me and help me, please? She finally asked, with the need for a toilet burning in her lower regions still. She was almost afraid to sit up, but she needed to go so bad. I can understand her, she must not be from far away then. How long before we can send her packing?
censored
Onlegs asked. The older man came at her, poking around at the herbs he'd placed on her injuries. He made some low noises, looked at her eyes and then spoke. A week at least. Her ankle won't hold, wait for at least that long. And that's a lot of weight to be carrying around, Mingan. Fine then, she can stay, but you'd best keep her in here. She might accidentally crush one of the women in the village if we let her out. This from the now not-so-sexy man. In fact, his
censored
appeal had just dropped 95%. Do we have enough food to feed such a massive woman, or do we need to find another deer? Or two? Tana looked at the man in horror and outrage, her mouth gaping open. You do realize I can hear you, right? She fired at him with a withering glare. No, I didn't, but it matters not. Please, don't move, you might break the frame of the pallet and do yourself a further injury. Please just don't move. Would it hold your weight, Mr. High and Mighty? She asked with a sneer. Yes, it would. Why do you ask? The man asked with a haughty tilt of his sculpted chin. Because I doubt I weigh any more than you do. I'm 5'8", and I barely weigh 154 pounds. I'm not a whale. Stop talking about me like I am. Tana demanded, looking away as tears stung her eyes. In this village, as you will see, women rarely reach 5 foot tall. You are a giant. A behemoth. I don't think I've ever seen a woman as massive as you, in fact. Ever. Excuse me now, I have more important matters to tend to. With that he slipped out of the doorway, pushing aside the leather strip that served as a door. Tana looked up to the older man, wondering if she was about to receive more of the same treatment from this one as well. Being insulted by complete nutcases, great. This was a new low in her life. The man that just left had said that this place was a village, and that he'd never seen a woman as tall as she. Either he'd been living under a rock, or he was deluded. There were plenty of women as tall as her in the world, some even taller. But nature called and called with an urgent ring, a pang of imminent embarrassment, or whatever you wanted to call it. Is there someone who can help me get to the toilet? she asked the old man, her cheeks burning red. Toilet? He asked, what is a toilet? Seriously? All right, I know you people are up here playing Hiawatha on the mountain, but come on now, how else are you going to answer the call of nature? Squat behind a tree? Tana asked, losing patience and control of her.
Censored.
Call of nature? The man asked uncertainly. Thinking hard of how to explain to the man the simple concept of, I need to urinate, Tana scraped her brain looking for other ways of saying it. Yes, I need to wee, have a pee, tinkle, go to the bathroom, potty, make water. Tana stopped as the man interrupted her. Ah, make water, yes, I will send in my daughter Alana, she can help you. The man left quickly, a woman soon making her way into the room. The woman was beautiful, brown-haired with large brown eyes and a tiny physique. She had a sweet, shy smile that faltered as she saw Tana. Heavens! The woman exclaimed. Tana had an idea of what had caused the woman's reaction. Yes, I know, I'm big and you've never seen a giant like me. All of you women could take starring roles in any film starring munchkins or pixies, maybe even fairies and brownies. I have no idea, but you're all delicate little flowers and I'm a cyclops with 2 eyes. I get it. Can you help me please before I end up with wet pants? Cyclops? The woman, little more than a teenager really, asked timidly. Never mind. So what serves as a toilet around here? How do I relieve myself? She asked, on the verge of tears but trying to maintain an air of bravery and nonchalance. These people were all insane, they just had to be. Papa says you need to make water? She asked. Yes, desperately. Tana replied with a wan smile. I can help you, first we should remove these strange pants you are wearing. Oh, how do they come apart? Tana undid her pants, and Alana helped her to pull them down before sliding the bowl she'd been carrying with her underneath Tana. This won't work. I can't do this laying down. Alana helped Tana to shift around, and finally her bladder was empty, gloriously empty. Relief was simply not the word for it. She'd write letters home about it if anyone there cared. Thank you, Alana. I know you didn't have to do that. You are welcome. What is your name? Alana asked with curiosity lighting up her delicately fine-boned face. My name is Tana Jackson. Is there a doctor here? Seeing the confusion return, Tana sifted through words that might make sense to the woman. Healer? Ah yes, healer. That would be my father Mingan, who was with you earlier. He says you need to rest for a few days at least. What about the colossal joker with your father? I hope he's the village idiot. Tana asked, sitting back on her pallet, a blanket rolled up to act as a pillow. Kajika? He is our great father. What is a village idiot? Alana asked, starting a fire in a stone circle on the floor. Never mind, what's a great father? Tana asked, wondering if the man was a massive perv, out impregnating all the delicate flowers in the village. Our leader? Yes, leader would be close to what it means. He runs the village, administers the laws, settles disputes, talks to the other villages and procures trade with them. Alana had the fire going now, and put an iron kettle on top of a structure she'd placed over the fire. When the water boiled, she put some herbs in the water and let them boil. Tana wasn't happy to learn that the rather rude, ugly-as-sin man that had insulted her so rudely was the leader of the village, but she wasn't surprised. Women went stupid over the strangest things. Still no answer on whether he was the chief impregnator of the cult, but she didn't really care. She just wanted to get out of the village. She wasn't spending 2 days up here. Where's my phone? Have you seen it? Tana looked around for her bag, but didn't see it. What is a phone? Alana asked, bringing Tana a cup of whatever concoction she'd mixed up. Tana took the mug, but didn't drink. It will ease your pain. You'll rest, then we can talk more if you choose. Drink up now. Alana said with an encouraging smile. Tana took a sip, and found it tasted rather pleasant. She sipped at it some more, and soon started to feel all of the
censored
and pains easing. Sometimes you had no idea just how badly you hurt until you stopped hurting. Chapter 2. Tana was still at the village a week later. Her belongings could not be found anywhere, and she was starting to think someone had taken her things. She'd had all of her gear on her back when she climbed up the mountain. At the very least, she may have set it down, but that was all. Nobody knew what she was talking about, however, and even she was starting to doubt herself by the end of the week. Without her phone, she couldn't call for help, and she certainly wasn't going to be walking out, not with an ankle as badly sprained as hers was. Nope, no walking for her, though she had started to hobble around the village a bit. Kajika may have been cruel, but he was right. She was a giant compared to the other women in the village. She stood over a foot taller than most of them, none were overweight, and they were all beautiful. She'd hate them all if they weren't such kind, accepting people. Each had offered something to Tana, a bite of food, a cool drink, an extra blanket, and she felt grateful even if they were a cult. After many talks with Mingin and observing the people of the village, Tana figured out these people thought they were a part of some kind of spirit world. Mingin believed she was a shaman, and that's why she could cross over from the land of the living to the spirit world. They really believed that gods, ghosts, and other supernatural beings came from their land. Tana hadn't seen anything yet to prove them right. For that matter, she hadn't seen anything to prove them wrong. She had an idea one evening, and went out with Alana's help to the highest part of the village, and looked out at the mountains in the distance, looking for other lights, for towers, airplanes, anything from the modern world to prove them wrong, but couldn't see anything. She should at least see ranger stations from up here, but she didn't see any of those either. There simply wasn't anything but the lights of fires from another village that Alana pointed out to her. No street lights, no home lights, no blinking airplane lights, nothing. The next morning she watched for contrails from a plane, but didn't see any all day. Not even a helicopter going to the resort that had a helipad 5 miles from the office she'd signed into earlier in the week. Something was wrong. Tana started to accept that something strange was definitely happening. From her talks with Mingin and the stories the elders told the children around a fire each night, Tana learned about the people of the spirit world. They thought they were actually the ghosts of people that had lived in the land of the living. When someone passed in the land of the living, they came here, forgetting who they were. When a woman became pregnant in the spirit world, the elders said, this was the entry of a spirit from the land of the living to the spirit world. The child would not remember who they were in their previous life, they would only know this life. Occasionally, someone from the land of the living would be able to see people from the spirit world, but not often. Tana cornered Mingin that evening and questioned the logic. How do you explain my presence, Mingin? I'm here, fully formed. I wasn't born here, but I'm from your land of the living. Shamans are powerful, Tana, you are a shaman. I can sense that in you. Somehow you have the magic to be in either place. You could return to your land if you chose to. Mingin replied in an almost offhand way. I could just blink myself back? Tana spluttered. I want to go back to my world desperately. I'm blinking like mad here and I'm still here. You'll go when you have completed the task you came for. Not before. What task is that? Tana asked briskly, stamping her foot. Mingin was becoming used to her moods, and smiled at her serenely, placing a hand on Tana's shoulder. The task you were sent for. Only you can find out what that task is. Maybe her task is to eat all of the deer in the forest, or to turn all of our women into slaves waiting on her immense form. Tana heard the words and knew who was behind her, snorting in laughter. How about you just take a long walk off a short pier there, super stud? What is a pier? Kajika asked, not understanding. Get lost, in other words. Tana retorted. Why would I want to lose myself? I like where I live. Kajika asked, frustrating Tana even more. Forget it, I'll do the getting lost part again. Tana stalked off to her wigwam, slapping the hide aside to slip in and plop down on her pallet. As if to torment her even more, the pallet creaked and almost turned over. I hate this place, Tana said to herself before punching her blankets and going to sleep. Kajika seemed to be everywhere she went over the next week, constantly taunting, constantly determined to bring tears to her eyes. She knew he wanted her gone, that was blatantly obvious. She'd managed to keep her boots and clothes, but over the days her clothes had become filthy, so she'd started to wear the clothing of the men, and that brought a tongue of ridicule down on her head. Luckily, the village didn't follow their great father's lead and do the same. Many pitied her, mainly the women, and a couple of the men her age actually gave her interested looks once they saw her body garbed in the tight buckskin. By the end of the second week, her ankle was healing, and Tana started to test it, taking longer and longer walks each day. There was still a twinge after she walked on it for an hour, but she'd swallow the pain if it meant getting back to reality. She couldn't stand the torment anymore. She spoke with Mingan and told him she didn't see any job she was supposed to be doing, and she wanted to go home. "You don't see that there's a job for you here?" Mingan questioned. "No, and I'm starting to think if I stay here much longer I'll be stuck here. Somebody must be looking for me. My family may not be, but someone at the office will be. Or my employer will be by Monday when I don't show up for work. Security officers tend to be missed." "What is a security officer?" Mingan asked, seeming to let the question about her job in the spirit world go. "I guard a bank at night, make sure people don't break in and steal the valuables inside." Tana had learned by now to put things as plainly as she could. The practice saved time and frustration for all parties. "So you have the job of a man in the law?" Tana had all of the village calling the land of the living that now. She thought it was funny, anyway. "No, women and men can do a variety of jobs in the law. There aren't male jobs and female jobs, we share burdens and base employment on ability, not gender. Some women are better at guarding than they are sewing, you know?" Tana couldn't sew a straight line if it meant saving her own life. She hated it, and always stabbed herself more than she did the cloth she was trying to sew. "Well, I guess if you're ready to go then you must go. I cannot stop you. When do you plan to leave?" he asked, handing her a plate of food he'd prepared for the evening meal. "This is really good, Mingan, I will miss your food. I guess I'll give my ankle one more day, then I have to go. We will feast tomorrow night then, to wish you well on your journey. Do you want me to get someone to help you down the mountain?" "No, I should be fine. I'll stop halfway down, and then finish on the next day. I'll be late getting back to work, but if I get stuck, then at least maybe someone will come looking for me," she said, scraping up the last of the food with the flat bread made by the village women. "The people of your world cannot find you here, Tana. They will never find you here no matter how long they search for you," Mingan said, as he carried a plate of food to another villager. The next night, Tana settled onto a pile of buckskin blankets with some of the village women she'd built friendships with, and watched as the villagers performed dances for her. She was the guest of honor, and felt like it as the ladies decorated her hair with late summer flowers and brought her the best plates of food. She'd become accustomed to the slate slabs used as plates, and was careful to make sure she didn't cut her hands on the sometimes sharp rock. She was enjoying the evening, and felt sadness at the idea of leaving the people. It was time to go back to her world though. Tana had thought them all mad when she first came to the village, a cult with very strange ideas, but she'd come to respect their ways over time, even if she still wasn't certain if they were truly of the spirit world or just a bunch of lunatics. They were living with what nature provided them, making everything from the food they ate, to the soap they used for cleaning, eating utensils and clothing. Everything else was gathered from the woods, and they were thankful for every bit of it. There was no electricity, no running water, any of it. Just a communal life of hunting and gathering that Tana thought left the people far happier than the modern conveniences of her world provided. All that mattered was the village and the people in it. Tana's thoughts soured as she spotted Kajika heading in her direction. "Here it comes, more insults. Ah, please, do not fall asleep and roll over or you will crush our women." He looked down at her with a snide grin, then walked away, seeking out Mingan. He deserves to have 1,000 small fish swim up his tackle and bite him from the inside, Alana whispered to her, and then giggled at her mention of Kajika's man parts. Yes, he does. It would serve him right. Tana returned, laughing as Alana's blush deepened. Oh, do stop being so innocent, Alana. Men have parts, so do women, it's nature, darling. I know I am far too shy, it is why I remain unmarried. I just do not have what it takes to flirt like other women do. Oh, is there someone you fancy then? Tana hoped it wasn't Kajika, because he didn't deserve Alana's adoration. No, not that I have met. Maybe in the winter when the villages gather for our annual trading fair. I am not in a hurry. No need to be, really, is there? Tana asked, watching as Mingan offered a cup of tea to Kajika, and then headed towards Tana with another cup in his hand. I have brought you the tea of the gods. This will give you good sleep, so you can wake rested in the morning for your journey down. Drink it now or later as you wish. Tana was planning on going to bed soon, so she sipped at the tea, hoping that would slow the effects but help her to rest later. That was something else she'd found out about this place. Herbal medicines seemed to be far better than anything she'd ever taken from a pharmaceutical company. She sat back on the buckskins, Alana running her fingers through Tana's hair as they listened to one of the elders telling a new story, and gazed up at the stars. She so longed to be home, but life was simply beautiful here, she thought. Her gaze drifted until she spotted Kajika, and then lingered on the man. He was the only blemish on her time here, a hateful man who enjoyed tormenting her. She hoped he ended up with little fishies, swimming up his plumbing as well. Her mind drifted as she watched Kajika, and she felt drawn to him. She resisted the urge to go over to him, and turned on her side, talking with Alana and others in her group instead. He may be the most beautiful man on earth physically, but he was ugly at his core. Tana, will you come with me, please? Kajika asked. Pardon? She asked as she turned over, shocked by the request. Will you come with me? I would like to speak with you, please, before you leave in the morning. He actually seemed to want to speak with her. No, I don't think so, Kajika. I don't feel like being asked if Greenpeace are protecting me, or if when I sit around the house, I actually sit around the house. Not tonight. Let's leave it at goodbye, shall we? Have a nice life. I promise I will not be cruel to you, which is what your statement implies, I suppose, as I don't know what Greenpeace is, but I would like to apologize to you and explain myself, please, if you would allow it. He rushed the words out, as if he only had seconds to say them. Tana looked up from her place on the ground with the other women, and saw honesty there, and something that looked similar to shame. This ought to be worth hearing, at least, she thought as she got up from her spot. All right then. Where do you want to go? She asked, looking around the village. Just over to the other side of the fire. Thank you for agreeing to speak with me. It might be worth hearing. But the first crack of an insult sees me getting up to leave, do you understand? Tana asked sternly. Yes, I think so, but not necessarily how you put it. But yes, overall I believe I understand you. He said, motioning for her to sit down on some blankets. Right? Well then, what do you have to say for yourself? Tana asked, almost impatiently. That herbal tea was starting to kick in, and she was getting sleepy. First, I would like to say I'm sorry for my behavior over the last couple of weeks. I have acted childishly and spitefully, and none of that was truly your fault. You are a beautiful woman, even if you look different from the women of my world. You have acted with honor, pride, and respect the whole time you have been here, but I have not. My wife left me many years ago for another, and I have not allowed myself to choose another wife. None have really caught my interest, honestly, but you did. To protect myself, I have tormented you, and though I do not deserve it, I ask for your forgiveness. I simply cannot allow you to leave hating me, and I hope that you would come back to visit us again whenever you are ready. Tana, sitting cross-legged on the blankets, reeled back and looked at Kajika as if he had 3 heads. Whoa! Her head was spinning now, but she was certain he'd just apologized, and rather humbly asked for her forgiveness. Wow. Yeah, thank you, Kajika. I appreciate the honesty and the apology. If I ever find my way back, I'll be glad to visit. I can't believe you just said all of that. Wow. Tana flopped onto her back, looking up at the stars. If I stay now, I will have to taste your lips, and that cannot be, so I will leave you now. I've said what I could no longer hold back. Pleasant dreams, Tana, and safe voyage. With that, Kajika left and Tana was alone, staring up at the stars. Pulling one of the blankets over herself, she fell asleep there, hoping that what Kajika had just said wasn't just a hallucination. Chapter 3. 2 days later, Tana knew she was lost, and she wasn't going to find her way home. The villagers had provided her with enough food and water and blankets to get her back down the mountain, but the food was only meant to last her a day and a half. She had been able to gather more water from streams, but food was scarce. She'd realized she was lost when she made camp the first night. She'd wandered the entire day, searching for her first camping point halfway down the mountain, but either she was coming down on the wrong side of the mountain, or it had disappeared. After another day of searching with very little food, her ankle now throbbing in protest again, Tana made camp and fell asleep, tears defying her will and rolling down her face. She was lost, and she couldn't even find her way back up to the top of the mountain now to find a village. Going straight up should have brought her back to it, but even that led her back to the middle of the mountain somehow. She was stuck and had no idea how to fix it. If nothing else had convinced her about where she'd been the last 2 weeks, walking straight up a mountain, only to find you were right back in the middle when you should have been at the top, did. She was not in Kansas anymore, Toto. Definitely not in Kansas. Tana fell into an exhausted sleep and dreamed of pleading with Mingan to find her, of chasing around the mountain for months, until her legs gave out and she died cold and alone, and of Kajika keeping her warm with his body in a different dream. That dream started to turn steamy, and that confused her, so she made herself wake up, staring up at the line of sunlight just breaking through the trees. Turning onto her other side, she started as she realized someone was sitting there. Kajika. How did you find me? Tana launched herself at the scowling man, hugging his neck tightly. Never mind, I'm just glad you are here. I've been so lost. Mingan sent me to find you, he heard your pleas in his dreams. I suppose I must now take you back to the village again. I don't know what Mingan gave me that night, or what I did that you now find it necessary to launch yourself at me, but please refrain from doing it again. The cold words were a shock to Tana, and his curt removal of her arms, flinging them away from him, saddened her. Back to that, are we? What happened to your, I humbly apologize, please come visit again. I do not remember ever saying those words to you. Now follow me, and if you can keep up, we'll be back at the village in a couple of hours. Tana stalled, almost certain she'd rather spend eternity wandering if it meant avoiding the taunts of Kajika, but she soon followed, remembering Mingan's food as her stomach rumbled. As they walked, Kajika made the occasional barbed comment about her ability to keep up, and how she was doing better than he thought she would. As they neared the top of mountain, and she saw the villagers there waiting for her return, her patience finally broke, and she let loose of the anger she'd been biting back. Do you know something, Kajika? You are nothing more than a pitiful little man. Oh sure, you're tall, but deep down you're just a little boy afraid of being hurt again. You torment me, you make fun of me, not because I'm actually ugly or I might hurt someone with my girth. If that was the case, most of the men in the village would have wiped out the entire female population by now. No, your anger is at yourself and not me. You taunt me so you won't feel soft towards me, and for however ugly you say I am, the attitude you've treated me with is far uglier, and as the leader of this village of people that have shown me nothing but love and kindness, you should bow your head in shame. You are not leading by example. You should be following the lead of your people, if anything. And with that she stomped off with Mingan, enjoying the way Kajika's mouth hung open in shock. Come back here, you deserve a thrashing for that. Kajika shouted at her receding back. Tana's only response was to turn slightly, still walking, and lift a middle finger to him before carrying on. She didn't see it, but he stomped off, ranting about lippy giants. She did giggle though, proud of herself for getting the best of him. That ought to keep him quiet for a while, Tana. Or he'll rant more. We'll see, we'll see. I am glad you finally spoke up for yourself though, it was getting tedious. Mingan said as he lifted the flap on his wigwam, letting her in. Now wait here, I'll bring you something to eat and you can tell me what happened. Later Tana ate from the slate plate, and explained how she'd just gone in some weird loop, always returning to the middle of the mountain. Mingan rubbed his chin, looking at her with concern. Tell me, Tana, the day you came to us, what do you remember of that day? Just that I got up, ate and started up the mountain. I wanted to get up here before it turned dark. Nothing unusual happened. I didn't fall through a wormhole, and pass through any strangely arranged trees, nothing like that. I just hiked up the mountain, and then I found you guys up here. Why? What are you thinking happened? I'm not sure yet, but I have to guess something unusual happened. It may simply be that you haven't fulfilled whatever you came here to do. We will figure it out eventually, I'm sure. Mingan did not seem concerned about how long Tana was going to end up being here, but she was. She didn't want to lose her job. Her parents wouldn't really worry. They were illegal drug users, and she usually avoided them anyway to stay out of their drama. She had friends, but nobody really close in her life. The only person she could really count on to raise an alarm was her partner at work. John knew she loved her job and that she'd gone camping. Maybe he'd be able to push an investigation, a search for her. She had a feeling she was stuck here, even if anyone came for her. That trip down the mountain taught her one thing. Perhaps it was time to finally admit that she was not in the lull anymore. Not in any way. A few days later, and Tana was soaking in a spring. Some of the women and children in the village used to bathe when it was warm outside. The mountain was massive, and the land at the top covered quite a few acres. The spring was nestled behind some trees, the water cold but nice. It was deep enough to swim in but not very large, more like a small pool than a lake. Tana rested against some rocks the ladies had arranged sometime in the past, letting the cool water soothe her ankle and sore muscles. She'd been helping the men with chopping the wood and piling it up yesterday, and now she was paying for it. She smiled though. The physical exertion had eased some of her anxiety and helped her to think. Even if she was stuck here, life wouldn't be so bad. She didn't have a lot to leave behind after all. She frequently came to the mountains to escape, even going to camp when she had 2 days off in a row to get away from the frantic pace of modern life. Tana's serenity was interrupted by Kajika's sudden appearance, his scowl alerting her that he was already in a foul mood. She tried to hide her body behind the rocks, not wanting him to see what he'd ridiculed in the past. She also tried to cut him off when he opened his mouth to speak. If you'll give me a minute, I'll leave. No need to insult me. In fact, I believe we should call some kind of truce, don't you? It doesn't appear that I'll be going anywhere soon, so we either call a truce or you slowly tear this village apart with your hatred of me. That or I leave, and honestly, I have nowhere else to go. Kajika had the decency to look somewhat ashamed, and hung his head as Tana spoke. He looked up at her when she finished, and gave a grimace that may have been a mangled-up grin. I suppose you're right. I have started to notice people are looking at me with distaste. Perhaps I have taken this too far. May I join you and we can discuss this further? I suppose, Tana said, looking out from her rock privacy fence. She looked away as Kajika stripped, but watched out of the corner of her eye. The man had a beautiful body, that part could not be denied. Tana ended her admiration of Kajika's body as he moved into the water as if he owned everything he saw before him. No hiding of his bits, no hunching, just a confident stride into the water. Tana sighed, wishing for a moment that the man hadn't been such a joker. Tana sank lower in the water, determined that he wouldn't be able to see anything of her nude form. He slid down in the water beside her, sighing as his skin submerged into the cool water. She tried not to think about that sigh, about other kinds of sighs men could make, sweet.
Censored.
Sighs. Tana blew air out from between her lips and looked away again. So then, what did you want to talk about? Could you tell me more about what I said to you the night before you left? I was really angry when you kind of threw it back at me, but after I stomped off, I thought about what you'd said. I have been trying to think of a way to apologize, but could not exactly come up with anything that did not sound paltry. Oh. You told me that your wife had left you, and that you didn't want to let anyone else near to you. You were afraid of being hurt, and that you thought I was beautiful. You apologized to me then, kind of stumbled off into the darkness as I fell asleep. Oh well, that is not too bad then. I was afraid I had perhaps made a complete fool of myself. It sounds like I actually didn't do a bad job the first time around. No, it was really quite a lovely apology, as apologies go. You don't have to do that again if you don't want to. Just an acknowledgement that you've been a complete bully would be nice. Tana said with a smile, cutting down on some of the bite of her words. You are right, Kajika said. I have been unnecessarily rude, cruel even with my words. Can we start over? Sure, but if you ever call me a giant again, I'll break your knees. Tana said with a beatific smile. Agreed? Kajika said with his own apologetic smile. Feeling a bit braver, Tana moved out into the deeper part of the pool, letting her hair flow out behind her. She loved how the water tugged on the strands as she moved through it. You are truly beautiful, you know? Half of the time, when I was saying all of those cruel things, I was only saying the exact opposite of what I was actually thinking. Kajika said, as he followed her into the middle. Were you? She asked over her shoulder, hoping that his words meant that he was interested in her. Because she was definitely interested in him if he decided to stop being a joker. Yes, you remember when I said you had lips like two fat slugs? Well, it would not be polite to tell you what I was actually thinking about your lips, he said, looking away as he tread water. Tell me, what were you thinking? She had an idea, but wanted to hear him say the words out loud. Kajika looked into her eyes, a wicked but pleasing grin spreading across his face. I wondered how those amazingly seductive lips would look, taking me into their depths. If you would close your eyes as you swallowed me, or if you'd look back into mine. His words sent a tingle up her spine, and her lips parted, as if to invite him to find out. She floundered for a moment, not sure what to say. Kajika was on a roll though, and didn't allow her time to speak. I wondered if the glorious globes of your
Censored
would fill my palms, or if they would overflow, and if your bottom would fit perfectly nestled in front of me, if your gasps would be sweet and timid or wild and free. I wondered so much, but I wouldn't dare allow myself to find out. You are not one of us, you could leave at any time, and I could not allow you to get to me. I am not sure why I am allowing it now, but I know I cannot deny this anymore. I cannot deny that I want you beneath me, filling my senses.
This scene has been censored to provide a safe and enjoyable reading experience for everyone.
She held him when it was over, when he'd collapsed in her arms. She stroked his hair, loving how it felt brushing against her skin. She didn't think she loved him yet, this was too new, too unexpected, but she knew what had driven him to his cruelty. It may have been misguided, but it was done for a reason she could understand: self-preservation. For now, she was content. Chapter 4. Tana settled into village life, working with Mingan as a healer and helping with the chores when she wasn't with Kajika. The villagers were happy that Kajika's bullying of Tana had stopped, and that they now seemed to be building a relationship. Tana moved her few belongings to Kajika's wigwam, and they spent every moment they could steal in the day making love. Tana had shown such stoicism, such bravery, that he decided to take her out on a hunt, looking for meat for the village. It wasn't dangerous, but far too many women were squeamish and did not like the act of killing. Tana accepted, although she'd never killed anything. Their survival depended on it, so she knew it was something she would have to learn to do. They set off early one morning, following the trail of a deer down the mountain. Tana tried to concentrate on what Kajika was teaching her about tracking, but realized quickly that she recognized where she was. She'd stopped here to take pictures not long after leaving her first camp. Moving down the mountain, she saw the camp grills, the building for a water pump, and a lone tent, weathered by the elements but still standing. She stopped and stared at the tent, a wave of anxiety, of fear spreading throughout her body. "Kajika," she whispered, taking his hand to stop him as she pointed at the tent. "What is it, my heart?" he asked, concern over the fear he saw in her face. "That is my tent. The one I thought I'd brought with me, the day I found the village." "So you left your tent, that is not a problem. Maybe we can find some of the things you've been missing there as well. Let us have a look." Kajika walked over to the tent, looking around the campsite. Tana followed slowly behind him, seeing everything just as she'd left it the night before she found the village. Kajika looked at her, worried, and then did what she could not force herself to do. He unzipped the tent and there, within its confines, Tana found the answer to her questions. Stumbling, falling to the ground, she sobbed as memory finally engaged, and she knew what had happened, why she could see her reddish-brown hair sticking out of the top of her sleeping bag. Her heart had developed an arrhythmia in the night, and it had just stopped working. It happened to athletes, people with healthy bodies, and people with heart problems, even to those that had no idea they had a heart problem. They just fell asleep one night, and did not wake back up. She didn't feel pain, she didn't even really wake up, but she knew that was what had happened, and her anguish at knowing the truth finally, at seeing her body there helpless and abandoned, was devastating. Kajika quickly picked her up, carrying her away from the scene, and back up the mountain, his strong body handling the burden of her weight with ease. He raced back to the village, calling for Mingan as he ran to his wigwam. The healing elder came, gave Tana a tea to calm her but not make her sleep, just enough to calm the sobs racking her body so that he could speak to her. Kajika sat beside her on their pallet, holding her hand as Mingan spoke. "So you are a spirit. That is why you could not leave, that is what I suspected, though you could not remember your death. I don't know how you saw the law, perhaps now that you have fulfilled what you came here to do, you can cross into the law more easily, but you can no longer live there. This is your world now. Don't look at it as an end to your life, Tana. Look, you have a life here amongst our people. You have Kajika, me, Alana and the others to keep you company, and your health is improving without all of that pretend food you told me about. This is your second chance at life, but if you cannot handle this life, you can always go into the great beyond." Mingan said reassuringly. "The great beyond?" Tana asked. "It is a place of oblivion, where you cease to exist, you are just gone. It is a form of spirit suicide, I suppose. You just stop being," Kajika told her. "Ah no, I don't want that. Never. How long can I expect to live here?" Tana asked. "Well, Mingan is 900 years old. I'm 480 if that's any help." Kajika spoke again. "You're joking," Tana said with a gasp of disbelief. "Not at all. Time is not the same here as it is in the law. We age differently. The good news is that when our time comes we are reborn, either here or in the law, so we get to live again. That sounds nice actually, the thought that we get another chance," Tana said, a sad smile spreading over her face. "It won't be so bad, living here. I'm going to miss some of the modern conveniences, but there are definitely things here worth staying for. I'm not going into the great beyond anytime soon, I can assure you of that." Tana squeezed Kajika's hand, hugged Mingan, and then bid him good night as he left. Kajika came to her and lay beside her, pulling her close to his body. The nights were cooling now, winter approached, and she was glad of his heat. She took his hand,
Censored.
it before putting it back down on her stomach. "Will you truly be happy here, my love?" Kajika often called her that, but he'd never said he'd loved her. "If I have you with me, Kajika, I don't care where I am," she replied sleepily, but happily. "I love you, Tana. And I have a confession to make," he whispered into her hair. Pushing aside her exhaustion, Tana sat up and faced him. You love me? I do. And I hope you'll forgive me, he said, looking down at his hands. Go on then. I can't say unless I know what it is, she replied. My wife did not run away, she went into the great beyond, she is gone forever now. She could not have children. She would become pregnant, then the babes would either wither and die inside of her, or would die when they were born. The misery of it finally got to her, and she ended it. No matter what Mingan gave her, or what we did to keep the babes healthy, they always died, and she just could not go on, even knowing that she had another life to live, one where she could have children. How very horrible for you both. I cannot imagine how you've dealt with that. But it kind of explains your behavior when I first came. It doesn't excuse it, but it does explain it, Tana said.
Censored.
His palm. No, it does not excuse it, not a bit. So, do you love me? Have you forgiven my behavior? He asked. Tana gave him a wicked grin and said, I don't know, Mr. High and Mighty, should I love you? Oh, you should love me every day for the rest of this life, and then some. I'm absolutely adorable, don't you know? And I know some tricks that you like. He answered with his own cheeky grin. Do you now? Care to show me some of those tricks? She asked huskily, moving her mouth to his. I'd love to, he said as she moved to straddle him as he sat up. Their lips joined, the passion building quickly between them. They knew how to touch each other now, what brought the broken gasps that meant don't stop, and what sent the other one into oblivion. They were going to kill each other if they weren't careful.
This scene has been censored to provide a safe and enjoyable reading experience for everyone.
She let her head fall back as he calmed, staring up at him. This is why I know I'll be all right, Kajika. We don't just have passion, it's not just freaking that we do, it's love. We share something beautiful, and this is what makes this world worth being in. I won't mourn my own death anymore. I'll rejoice in my new life with you in the spirit world where I belong. You are right, my love, he replied as he nuzzled her neck once more, his passion for her still not quenched. This is what makes life worth living. I just wish now I hadn't wasted so much time in learning that. We will never get that time back, but we learned a lot from our first weeks. Besides, we have several lifetimes, don't we? Maybe by the 10th one, I'll have tired of you and been able to get you out of my system. She laughed as he tickled her ribs for that remark. I couldn't stop thinking about you, even when you were at your cruelest. I was drawn to you, even though I told myself I was a million kinds of fool. I can't say that I'm glad I died, but if I hadn't, I wouldn't be here. There's no denying this is where I'm meant to be. For now and always. Tana reassured Kajika. Always, my love, always. He replied, smiling down at her, the love he felt for her shining through even in the semi-darkness of their home. Her home. Thank you for reading my book. If you like this story, I think you'll enjoy my book. Get your copy of Sold to the Werewolf now. Please leave a review if you like this book. That's the best thing you can do to help authors like me, so others can find my books. It can be as long or as short as you'd like. Even a star rating is amazing and appreciated. Thanks in advance. About Summer Cooper. Thank you so much for reading. Without you, it wouldn't be possible for me to be a full-time author. I hope you enjoy reading my books as much as I do writing them. Besides, obviously, reading and writing, I also love cuddling my dogs, shouting at Alexa being upside down, aka yoga, and driving my family cray-cray. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Goodreads, BookBub. Get in touch at hello@summercooper.com. www.summercooper.com. Closing credits. This has been Ghost. Written by Summer Cooper. Auto-narrated using Google technology. Copyright 2024 by Lovie Books Limited. Production copyright 2024 by Lovie Books Limited.